Today we're going to go over the two-handed kettlebell swing. So a swing is a hinge movement, which is one of the 6 primary movements: push, pull, hinge, squat, lunge, loaded carry. And so it's a hinge movement. We're going to break it down into 4 parts. There's going to be the deadlift, hike pass, a dead stop swing, and then in part 4 we're going to put it all together and see how the whole thing works. So a lot of people struggle with swings, saying it causes back pain. There's a number of things we're going to cover with this that show what you can do if you're having back pain with your swing and what could be causing that. So if you're locking out properly with a swing, it should protect your back, shouldn't bother you. So we'll go over a few of those pieces. The first thing is the kettlebell deadlift. And with the deadlift, also a hinge movement. With a kettlebell deadlift, you're setting up like similar to a barbell. Like if you step it up under a barbell, you would get your toes or your feet would be like halfway under the bar. With a kettlebell, you're going to make sure that the handle of the bell, you want it running like almost ankle to ankle. So you want it dead underneath you, and you're going to hinge backwards. So you're going to fold here at the hips, and you're going to fold backwards, and so your hips should come back behind your heels. Your knees will slightly bend so that you can come down and reach the bell. So from here, I'm just going to fold backwards. So I'll reach down, knees are slightly bent, you want a good flat back. When you find the bell, you're going to want to like grab it with 2 hands, almost like you're trying to bend the bar. So you're here, and you're going to push down through your big toe and your heel. From there, you'll push down, come all the way up, and you'll be fully stacked at the top. And you want like shoulders over hips, over knees, good ab tension, squeezing your glutes, and then you take it all the way back, maintaining that tension all the way back to the floor. So if somebody can't properly do a kettlebell deadlift, they're not going to be able to swing properly. And so we'll set this hinge up first before we move into a swing, which is a ballistic hinge. So this is more of a grind, and a ballistic is more of like an explosive type exercise. And so you want to make sure that you've got the like the grind form of that movement down before you'd ever want to consider doing like a more explosive exercise. So that's the main thing with that. You're making sure that with that kettlebell deadlift, you're over the top of it. It's almost like you're going to breathe in through a straw. So you're going to breathe in, get tight, so you've got good tension on your abs, drive down through your feet, coming up, and then you hold that tension all the way back to the ground. All right, so part 2 of this will be the hike pass. Similar to a swing on a playground. So if you were going to get in a swing, like you sit in the seat, your hands go on the chains, one of the first things you do is you don't just start kicking your feet. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to back up. So you're going to back up, and you're just going to like launch yourself into it. So the hike pass with this is how you get the momentum on the bell, because like ideally with a kettlebell swing, like the bell is going to stay in motion, just like a swing on a playground. Like it stays in motion, like it doesn't stop every time you want to go kick your feet. And with a swing, very similar to how like you're hinging at the knee, and it's that like that leg drive forward is what propels the swing on a playground. It's your hip drive with this exercise is what's going to propel the swing. So we're going to set up for that hike pass. So important that when we set up for this, that you want your knees should be below your hips should be below your shoulders. So with that, with the deadlift, we were up on top of the bell for the setup. For the swing, but we want to make sure that we're behind the bell so we have room for the hike pass, or that they were swinging it back before it comes forward. So from here, we want to make sure we get down in that stance. So you want make sure that your knees are lower than your hips are lower than your shoulders. From here, you reach forward and you're going to grab that bell. So the starting position for the bell is always half cocked off the ground right there. So you're right there. You should be looking at the floor about 3 feet out in front of you. And from here, always we're going to hike it back and then set it back in place. So good hike back, right back in place. Hike it back, right back in place. And with doing that, let's make sure that somebody's properly throwing the kettlebell back into that hike pass so that they have sufficient momentum on the bell to get started with their swings. Because a lot of times you'll see somebody that says they've been doing swings before, and they'll start their swings and they'll pick it up and then they'll start doing something like that to try to like slowly create momentum so that they're able to do that first swing. That's a great way to hurt your back. Probably don't have significant tension on there. Absolute no-no. You want to make sure that every single swing should start and end on the floor in the same spot, and it always starts with a good hike pass to initiate the rep. So now that you have that hike pass down, We're gonna go ahead and move on to step 3. So part 3 is the dead stop swing, and that's gonna be a single rep swing. So we're gonna hike it, good lockout at the top, and then we're gonna park it right back on the ground. So it's important to note at the top of your swing. So the top of the swing is a plank, abs, bracing your abs like you're about to take a punch, and then you're squeezing your butt cheeks. Like, imagine like you're gonna crack a walnut with your butt. I always like to tell everyone, imagine you're taking your last $100 bill, fold it in half, and you put it between your butt cheeks. Your job is to squeeze your butt so hard that nobody can take your money. Don't get robbed in your workout. So from there, we're gonna set up just like we did with that hike pass. So you're set up behind the bell, you're gonna come down, so your knees below hips, hips are below shoulders. We're gonna reach out from here, and we're just gonna hike it back, one good strong rep, lock out at the top, and we're gonna park it on the ground. So at the top of that rep, squeezing your abs, squeezing your butt, you should see someone be able to lock out. So at the top of a swing, especially if you see somebody they think they're squeezing their butt, but they start throwing their hips back. And so what they're doing, they're thinking they're squeezing their butt, and they're pushing their hips forward, they're throwing their shoulders back. So you're arching the spine, you're putting your back in a bad position. That's going to create some back pain. If you do not fire the glutes, if you don't squeeze your butt hard enough, somebody cannot see you physically lock out and squeezing, you are not squeezing hard enough. It's just that simple. There is no, like, you don't have a different butt than the rest of us. We should be able to see your butt squeeze. So from here, you're going to set up, again, a dead stop swing. And so one of the things we'll do when we're first coaching someone to do kettlebell swings is we'll have them do successive reps of dead stop swings. So I'm going to go ahead and do a set of 5 and locking out at the top. The breathing on this is also important. Another thing, the breathing is really big for somebody's having back pain. Make sure that you're breathing properly. You should be breathing in through your nose on that back swing, short, tight breath at the top. And that's what makes sure that if you're breathing correctly, everything's going to be aligned. It's going to be harder. Your glutes are firing. You're going to put your body in a better position. If your breathing gets kind of sloppy, then your form can break down, and that's where your shoulders can come back, your hips go too far forward, and everything starts to break down. So the breathing is really important. Squeezing the butt's really important. All right, so from there, we're going to do a set of 5 dead stop swings. So once the dead stop swing and everything, we feel like you're good there, the lockout's good at the top, parking back on the floor, and we get comfortable with that, we'll move on to sets of 5 and 10 kettlebell swings where we're putting it all together. And that's what we're going to do in the next step, where we put all the previous 3 components all together in step 4. All right, in step 4, we're going to put everything together that we did in the previous steps and to complete successive reps of kettlebell swings. So in the beginning, it's really important that you're not doing more than, say, 10 to 15 reps. Ideally, in the beginning, you're going to work 5 to 10. But once you get comfortable with it, plenty of studies that show the intensity and the lockout tends to fall off after 10 to 15 reps. And so if you're like doing on-the-minute type workouts, you want to try to keep those to like around 10 to 15. Just know that's where the intensity falls off. And if your reps are going higher than that, then you've got an increased risk of injury. So keep the reps low and the intensity high. So with these, I'm going to do 5 successive swings, good hard lockout with the abs, squeezing the butt. I'm not going to get robbed in my workout. So here we go, putting it all together. So from here, so at the top of that, you've got a tremendous amount of tension from your shoulders to your toes, but the arms are relatively slack. So very similar to like a swing on a playground when your legs are doing all the work, and your arms are hanging onto the chain. It's like your arms are hanging onto the bell, but your arms aren't doing any work. They're just kind of hanging on. And at the top of this, you can actually let go of the bell with a good hard lockout. The bell should float out in front of you, so I can temporarily take my hands off of it if I wanted to, and it should float long enough where I can let go, re-grab it, and then go into the next rep. So I'll demonstrate that. You should have that float. So That's a great way to know if you're swinging the bell that you're using. Is it an appropriate bell for you? Is if you can consistently get a good lockout or a float at chest level. So when you're setting up on this, make sure you're packing it in with your lats, like you're squeezing in with your armpits. So you got money here, and you're squeezing all that tight. So from here, we're setting up, squeezing in with your lats to pack that bell, and then and there you can see the top of that, where there's enough slack in the arms where I could let that go if I wanted to. It's floating, I can grab it, and then safely pull it back for the next rep. And as always, when you're done with your set, it always concludes with a hike pass, return it to the floor. So every rep should starts from the ground, finishes on the ground, setup is the first rep, and make sure you are squeezing your abs, squeezing your glutes. Don't get robbed in your workout.